Hey Michelle, thank you so much for joining me. Can you let us know how you're involved in the dating space? Who are your clients? And what are some of the things that you help them with?
Venus, thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Michele Burghardt, and I am a dating coach for mature women. The exciting thing I think about what I bring to the table, I believe in an inside out, outside in approach to coaching. And what I mean by that is you have to feel good about yourself before you can go out and really present your best self to anybody. It doesn't matter if it's a romantic interest, a family member, a business partner, it doesn't matter. So I'm also a certified hypnotherapist, and I have some other certifications in that space. So I really can work on how you feel. So you feel good on the inside, you learn skills that you can, apply on the outside, and then you kind of have a winning combination. And I work with women a lot of the women I work with have not dated in decades, or maybe not decades, maybe 10 years. They haven't dated in a long time. So they're new to the dating scene. And the reason that they haven't dated in a while, a lot of times they've gotten hurt in the past and they've been scared to start dating again. And understandably. So I know your situation, I think your demographic is a little different because you're still looking for that first love, in many cases. And the fundamentals are very, very much the same. And the heart space is very much the same. So I think it's really exciting that when somebody comes into my universe, they have an opportunity to grow on multiple levels. It's not just, I don't want to just I just don't want you to help you find a man. I want you to feel good about who you are and how you present yourself to the world.
How can my viewers reach you for dating advice?
Dategreatguys.com is my website. It's dategreatguys.com. I have a blog there. I have a YouTube channel as well. It's called Dating Over 50 Up Close and Personal. Or you can put in my name, but my name is hard to spell, honestly. So it might be easier just to check into my blog on my website. And then they can always send me an email.
Let's talk about re-entering the dating world after exiting a long-term monogamous relationship. It's so confusing. There are so many labels to choose from: friends with benefits, situationships, open relationships. And should you stick to your old dating filters that didn't serve you, or should you revisit these? So, first off, I really want to talk about how do you even know that you're ready to see other people again?
This is really, it's going to be different for everyone, of course. I think what you're going to find is you never take action until the pain gets to a boiling point. You can be uncomfortable and unhappy, but until it seems like you're kind of like at that point where it's like something happens and you're like, bam, I've got to get away from this pain. And so I'm going to take action. And I think that's sort of what you have to look for. It's like, when are you getting lonely? When are you so lonely you can't bear it anymore? Or when do you need physical touch to the point that you finally need to take action because you need that? You don't always know, though, for sure. You think you're ready, and then you start dating, and then you get really nervous and it doesn't go well. And then you retreat and stop dating, and then that builds another line that puts another fear barrier up. But you have to really get comfortable. Feeling uncomfortable is really the key, because you never know. You don't know until you try it. You might go out and I'll just use myself as a example. I was married for a lifetime. I mean, literally a lifetime. And I ended up getting divorced, and I I never really, I never really dated a lot. I mean, I got married very early. I never really dated. And I had gone a very long time without any intimacy. So we have a saying in the US, when you date around and sleep around, however you want to call it, that you're sowing your wild oats. But for the first year or two, I sowed my wild oats. And I just did what I wanted to do. And I needed to experience that to learn something about myself, determine what kind of a person I was really looking for. And that's the exciting part about this, Venus, is that you don't really know who you're looking for. Like, you can make a list all you want, and then you find a man who fits that list, and it's still not clicking. So then you refine your list, and then you meet somebody else, and then you refine your list. And so it's an exciting opportunity for you. I always tell people, when you first start dating, you date a lot. Date a lot. Date anybody that asks you, unless they're horrible. Like, you don't want to date icky men, but date a lot. You need that experience. You need that practice. And then once you feel like you know what to say, and you know what to do, and you know how to present yourself, and you know what you're looking for, and you feel more settled, then you can start dating more intentionally. Now you start dating for more quality versus quantity. And you shift. But at the very beginning, when you're just getting back into the dating scene, take a deep breath and walk out the door. That's really the only thing you can do.
But does that mean so? What I'm hearing from you is that all of us do tend to feel lonely, especially if we've experienced a long term relationship and we get to a point where we're feeling desperately lonely.
Hmm.
So, is this a good place to start dating again? Does it mean that you're going to have to
I
move
don't
to
want you to feel
filters?
like you're desperately lonely, because what I would recommend that you do is that you have to, like, live your life. You have to build a life. A man's job is not to make you happy. That's not his job. That's too much responsibility for one person. You have the responsibility of making yourself happy. That's your job, right? The man that you meet, he can be the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae, but you have got to do the work. You've got to build a life for yourself. So I don't want you to sit around and pine and mope and be sad for him. I want you to live your life. I want you to go get hobbies. I want you to be with friends. I want you to travel, spend time on education or business or volunteerism. You have to live your life, create a beautiful life for yourself. But you can do that. But romantic love still fills in those little pieces of your heart that nothing else can. I don't want you to just sit around and get desperately lonely. That's very sad. And I'm glad you clarified that, because if anybody heard that, that's not at all what I meant. But no, I'm not going to lie. If you're heartbroken, you need to take some time, and you need to cry, and you need to cry until there's no more tears. It hurts. So if you need to cry, cry, and tell everybody, I don't want to see you right now. I don't want to be around people. Whatever you need to do, this is your time to work through it until you get unhealthy. If it's been a year and you're still crying every day, then you need maybe some different type of help. But I mean, heartbreak is hard. Heartbreak is real, and it's true, and again, though, sometimes you still have to take a deep breath and walk out the door, even when you're heartbroken, just to start rebuilding your life without that person, and then come home and then cry again. It's just, you cannot stop living. You think you're going to live forever. The days are very slow, but the years go very fast.
So, what if you're in your mid 30s and you've exited this long term relationship and now you re enter online dating and you realize that it's a young person's game? How do you play it when you've lost touch with flirting, even the chat lingo? Everything's sort of evolved and you find yourself a bit outdated. So the demographic that I'm specifically talking about is someone in their mid 30s.
Right.
Like they left a long-term relationship. It could have been like they were married and then now they're re-entering, the dating
And
world.
now they feel
So
old.
they feel old and they want to date, but not specifically with the intention to get married,
Gotcha.
but they're just feeling lonely and then they want to explore, but they're not very clear whether they should have a goal to get married or they should just explore. So there's a lot of
Well,
confusion there. So that
so the feeling old part is something that you have to make sure that you don't look old, and to be honest, you've got to stay relevant. If you've had the same haircut for the last 15 years, you need an update. I hate to be so brass, but come on, you have to look relevant. And the nice thing about that is that, and I'm not saying you have to go out and spend the dollars, but you need to be relevant. You need to dress current, you need to look current, you need to have makeup that's current. You need to be current for one thing. And the nice thing about that is it'll make you feel better. When you look good on the outside, you feel great on the inside. So it'll make you feel better. That's one thing you have to do. And honestly, that's a big thing sometimes. Changing your look is very difficult sometimes. People get very attached to a hairstyle and it's very hard to change. But I highly recommend that you ask people that will tell you the truth. Don't ask your mom, does this look good? Because she'll of course say, yes, you're beautiful. Ask someone who will really tell you the truth and who'll say, yeah, you need to update that look. So that's one thing. The other thing too, I think you have to realize that men are in the same situation. There are men that are going to be divorced as well. They are going to be divorced as well. So you need to, I always tell people, fish in the right pond. If you're on a dating site and it's 20 somethings and you're a 30 something, then you're fishing in the wrong pond. So you have to fish in the right pond and you have to understand it's like you're going to find what you're looking for. That's brain science. If you convince yourself that nobody wants to date somebody in their 30s, then everybody you meet is going to want to date a 20 something. Your brain it's going to find what you're looking for. So you have to change your mindset. And again, you have to know what you want. It's very difficult to start dating if you don't know what you want. It's very difficult to, do I want to get married? Do I want friends with benefits? Do I just want some hottie, to keep me warm at night? It's hard. But you just really need to spend the time and do the inner work so that because honestly, it's not fair to you, nor is it fair to the people that you date. If you don't want to cohabitate with a man or get married to a man, you have to know that, because you could break someone's heart just as easy as your heart can get broken. And it doesn't do you any favors, because again, you still are meeting men that your goals are not aligned. And the way that you're going to be happy long term is if your relationship goals are aligned. So, but I honestly think you really do have to change your mindset and just think there's a perfect man out there for me. You do
how do you
that.
even set that goal? Do you first get into dating with an open mind that you want to
Mhm.
explore, and then along the process you figure out what you want, or do you
Well,
have
let's
to?
say, let's put it to the test. Let's say you're 35, you're divorced, you've been divorced 3 years. Okay. You had an okay marriage, but for some reason it wasn't that great because you got divorced, right? So you're not feeling super positive, but you're lonely. So you start out sleeping with anybody that has a package, right? You sleep around. But then after a while, that you feel a little empty from that. So then you're like, well, maybe I'll go to friends with benefits. I'll have one man that I sleep with, but he's not really my love interest. He's just my physical release. So you do that. And then that's going to run its course. And you're like, okay, well, that's not working. And then you're like, well, maybe I'll just date multiple men and be a casual dater. But then you don't have anybody who's really intimate, emotionally intimate with you. So you can't like have those deep, really juicy conversations with, nor can you share your feelings with somebody if you're just dating high level. So that doesn't work. So, I mean, again, a lot of this is a process of elimination. You know, now I'm not saying that you have to start out sleeping with every man in the world. I mean, that everybody has their own opinion about that. But you start from where you are, right? And then, and the only thing that I ask when I am coaching women, I ask them, you be honest with the men that you're dating. If you're not sure what you want to do, you tell them that. You know, I'm not sure if I want to get married again. You know, personally, and I'm at the other end of the spectrum. I don't know that I would want to get married again, but I would want to have like I call it a commitment ceremony where I have a wedding ring on, we get our friends and family together, we commit to one another, we just don't do anything legally. And the reason for that is that myself and my partner, we're both getting to the age that we need to worry about inheritance for our children. And if we're married, that changes the financial landscape. I mean, we have a different reason for that than somebody in their 30s, but you start from where you are and you keep asking yourself, is this where I want to be? Is this where I want to be? Is this where I want to be? I mean, unfortunately, there's no magic bullet because everybody is so different and everybody's experiences to this point in their life is different. Even to, again, we'll use the 35-year-old women. Two 35-year-old women have totally different experiences. So I would say to one person, I want you to go and sleep with 10 men this month. And they would be like, oh, no way. Another woman would be like, thank goodness I have permission now. I can do what I want to do. I mean, everybody has a totally different, they're coming into it from a totally different place. So you just have to really be aware of how you're feeling. And you, again, I have to keep going back to the fact you have to do the inner work and you have to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want? Now, sometimes you think you get what you know, it's like you think you get this. And that's what's so funny. I was telling, you know, if you go down your checklist and they meet all their, you know, you can check off all the boxes, but there still isn't any chemistry. Well, then you know that there's something else that you're lacking, you know, and it's just to grow. You just grow, you continue to grow. And that's really the only way you can do it. You know, there are some things that you know that you don't want. Like I don't want somebody that drinks a lot. I don't want a smoker. I would never date a smoker. I mean, those things are easy, right? But then the intangibles, you know, the intangibles are the things that really give you the sparkle, the chemistry, and you can't always label those. You have to just kind of start, you have to start here and then just work your way in.
So you're saying that we have to go on this journey, we have to make mistakes, relationship mistakes to figure it out. We can't just
If
know
you're
it
not,
all
yes,
without even.
if you're not making mistakes, you're not dating. You're just not. You're not dating. If you're not making mistakes, I mean, you know, because you're doing something you haven't done in a long time. And to be honest with you, even when you dated when you were a teenager, no one taught you how to do it. We don't have dating 101 class. So how do you know how to know how to date? Who knows how to date? I mean, you know, when I first started dating, I thought, well, I'm chatty, I'm friendly, I'm a nice person. Dating should be easy for me. Well, 2 years later, I realized I was treating my dates like business meeting. Well, no wonder why there was no chemistry. I mean, but it took me that long to figure it out. You have to make mistakes and you have to be, and it's not nothing. Rejection, that's not rejection. It's feedback because it's all about, are you a good fit for me? Is this man a good fit for me? Am I a good fit for him? It has nothing to do with you personally, especially at the beginning, like in a new relationship. You date a guy once, twice, three times, and then something happens and you go your separate ways. Well, he doesn't even know you. That's not rejection. That's just feedback. You're not a good fit. He's not a good fit for you either. And if you couch it in that attitude, it helps so much because it really is feedback. It's like, oh, I thought I was looking for a man that did this, this, and this. And now I find that that's really not exactly what I'm looking for. It's great feedback. You have to look at not just like the checks and the check boxes, you have to look at lifestyle. Are his values the same? Is his lifestyle the same? Are you a party person that really likes to socialize a lot and he's a homebody? He doesn't like to go out and he's more of an introvert. Well, that's kind of it's hard to mesh people that are so very different like that. So you really do, you just consider all this as feedback. It's like, okay, note to me, I have to change things up a little bit.
Sure, I just want to backtrack a little. So, when we're talking about these filters, the assumption that we're making is we're seeking someone again for a long term relationship. So, should we stick to these filters even if we're out there just to have fun? I mean,
No,
how different do the filters look for fun, friends with benefits versus something?
well, that's up to you. That's up to you. If you're only going to sleep with somebody who does A, B, C, and D, then you're only going to sleep with somebody who does A, B, C, and D.
Can you give me an example?
You might, well, I'm just off the top of my head. I never made a list for somebody I was going to sleep with, so give me a minute. I mean, maybe it's, well, in my case, I'm tall, so it's like, okay, I'm attracted to tall men. I'm attracted to smart men. I'm attracted to men that are active. Um, and I'm attracted to men that are good lovers. So if I'm gonna, I mean, you don't know that, but I mean, I have to be attracted to somebody to at least sleep with them. I'm just not gonna say, hey, you over there, come on. There has to be some kind of attraction. But if he's not a good lover, it's gonna be a one and done. Right? So, but what I look for, he doesn't have to talk. Like, I'll give you an example. I had a friend with benefits and I couldn't go out with him because he could not eat with good manners at a table. Isn't that weird? I mean, he just had food. I could not go to dinner with him because, so we had an arrangement. The arrangement was we met exactly for that. And that was it. And then our arrangement was if either one of us met somebody that they were serious about, because I don't sleep with multiple men at the same time, then we would not do this anymore. But you set your own parameters. It's like, maybe you like tall men, maybe you like short men, maybe you like bald men, maybe you like, I mean, again, but at the end of the day, they have to give you what you're interested in. I mean, it's like if you're looking for cuddle, just a cuddler, then you want to sleep with somebody who's a cuddler. If you're not a cuddler, then, that's up to you. See, the interesting thing about the age group that you're talking about is that women are moving into, in their 30s, they're moving into their top sexual peak. Because about 40, women peak. Well, that's not really true because I'm in my 60s and I'm still very active. But you're kind of like so women are on their way up, but men, they start about 13, and then their sexual interest is, yeah, I know.
I don't even know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't know either. But you figure by the time they hit 40, then their testosterone levels start dropping. So once they hit 40, and then once they hit 50, they cut in half. So we're sort of at different, women are moving into their sexual expression, where men are kind of almost at the tail end of, they're getting closer to the decrease physically. So there's a little disconnect there. But again, it's all about, it's hard. You have to be really careful. I think friends with benefits is a little bit of a slippery slope, because if you can get your physical needs met and have a decent conversation, which I'm assuming most women would want, then do you really need to look for somebody who you could build a life with? I mean, and there's websites that are basically just for that. If you want to meet somebody, you want to hook up, you want to have a physical relationship. And it's kind of like, well, if I'm going to get on this website and do that, then am I really even going to look for somebody real? To me, that's a stopgap. Friends with benefits is just a stopgap until I meet somebody who I really care about. Because, a girl's got needs, and I understand that. So but again, though, you do what works for you. That's the nice thing about dating. Venus, there's no dating police. You do what you want. You do what you want to do. You do what feels good to you, that feels right, that you want to be able to look in the mirror and say, I'm on the right path, of whatever that path is, because it's going to change. And that's the nice thing about it. It can change. You can have friends with benefits for a year, and then all of a sudden you're at a coffee shop and you meet this man and he knocks your socks off. And you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's fantastic. Well, your friend with benefits just got left in the dust because life changed. And that's beautiful. I mean, again, you do what you feel works for you. And I think you have to give yourself permission. Like, I want you and all of the people who see this, all the women and men that see this, to give yourself permission to do what feels right. Now, it might not feel right tomorrow, but if it feels right today, it's okay. As long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting someone else, you do what feels right for you. And then if your life changes, then you change. You're not a tree. You can move and shift and get up and change and walk around. You're not, stuck. The only thing that makes you stuck is this.
So, Michelle, you said that we need to give ourselves permission to have fun again.
Right.
How do you even do that if you've, been in a relationship that wasn't very healthy, and you're terrified now, you don't want to make the same mistakes again,
Right.
but
Right.
to have fun, you have to make mistakes. So how does that work?
So I'm a big believer in mental health. I'm a big believer in mental health. So, and that's one of the reasons why I include hypnotherapy in my coaching, because it really helps kind of clear out those blocks. And if you don't have that, then there's always talk therapy. If you really, and I tell people, if you need it, get it. If you're not living the life you want, and you can't make yourself live the life you want, you just can't get out there and do it, then you need to talk to somebody to help you develop some strategies to make yourself do it. Now, there are things that you can do. I always tell people, start small. Start by saying hello to somebody, or, you start very small, and then you just start expanding your comfort zone, because, forcing yourself to put your toe, to just start to put your toe in the water when you don't want to. It's hard. It's difficult and it's scary. Sometimes I even say, write it out. Make yourself a permission slip. Like, I don't know if you have, when I was in school, like as a kid, I had to bring home a permission slip to go to the zoo, and to my mom, and she would sign it. And so I include a permission slip in my coaching program. And it's like, I want you to fill this permission slip out. It's Michele Burghardt, give myself permission to explore love and have fun. And you write it down, and you don't use a computer. You write it on a piece of paper with your hand, because that's a subconscious activity. And then you put that piece of paper in your purse and you carry that with you and you pull it out every time you're feeling a little nervous. And you're starting to reinforce some of those positive feelings. I mean, that's a really simple little trick you can do, but sometimes it just works. And Mel Robbins, her thing is, if you're trying to do something and you're having a problem, count down to 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then do it. So if you're having a hard time talking to a man, you see a man at a coffee shop that you'd like to smile at or say hello to, it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. It's like, it just kind of like, you have to, it's like a mechanism to help you like trick yourself into taking action. I mean, and again, the more you do it, the more comfortable it feels, because you're expanding your comfort zone. I mean, I date very differently now, extremely differently now than I dated when I first got divorced. It's just knowing, it's like, I know what I'm looking for. I understand my worth now. Like, I don't put up with crap. I don't put up with nonsense. If they don't treat me well, I don't spend time with them. And I've dated enough now that now I'm dating with more intention. So it's like, I'm not looking for a roll in the hay. Oh, I shouldn't use those terms. I'm not looking for sex. I'm looking for a substantial relationship. And so, but I had to go through I kissed a lot of frogs, as they say, because I had to learn I had to understand who I was. And the person that I was when I started dating is not the person that I am now, because I was willing to put up with anything. I was just willing. I didn't understand that, the whole goal is you want to find a man who will love you the way you want to be loved, whatever that is. And that's going to be different for everybody. And that is, you're in a good relationship if you're both putting in the same amount of effort. If it's always you, if you're always the one who's reaching out and you're always calling and you're always texting and you're always doing the planning and it's always you, part of this is men don't know how to date. I'll be honest. They don't know how to date. They really don't. They barely know how to dress. So, I mean, and a lot of them don't know how to date. But again, even if
Can you explain that?
That they don't know how to date?
Yeah. What does that mean exactly?
Well, and again, I'm coming from the US, okay? In the US, women are very strong and they're very opinionated and they're a little bossy. And especially if they've been divorced, right? They have to take care of the household. They have a job. They might be raising their children alone. They might have been in bad relationships. So they have developed the skills to take care of themselves, which is a really positive thing. But I think they forget that men by nature and organically, men are the hunters and the gatherers. I think we emasculate men, and we have emasculated men to the point where they just let women do everything. Like, oh, whatever you want, do whatever you want, wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. And they've just gotten lazy. They don't put any effort into it. Men have just gotten lazy because women are so good at doing everything they need to do. But women don't want to do everything. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you always want to do it. Yeah, I can plan a dinner, but I would love for a man to surprise me and make reservation. I mean, it's like, that's a mind blow. It's like, wow. But when it comes to the dating aspect, women still want to be pursued. I mean, there's nothing better than being pursued by a man. I mean, come on. I mean, that is one of the best feelings in the world. When you know that a man is making an effort to make you smile, oh my gosh, your world sings when that happens. and it's so simple. I always tell people and they don't believe me. And I know some women are very complicated. I am not one of those women. I'm very uncomplicated. If you want to make me smile, all you have to do is do something nice. I mean, making a reservation, I acknowledge that. Because to me, that doesn't happen all the time. And I think men just get lazy and they let women do all the work. And then dating becomes one more job they have to do. If you're already raising kids on your own and you're already working full time and you're already managing your house, and now you meet a man and he's not making the plans. Now the man just becomes one more job. And that's not fun. That's just not fun for me anyway.
Friends with benefits. How does it work? Does it mean that you enter into a physical relationship with one man only, but you're not allowed to have feelings for each other? I mean, how does the whole thing work?
Again, it's going to be different for everybody. Personally, I like the way that I had it arranged, and that's what I would recommend, is that you meet a man that you like, that he's a nice man, right? And that you feel that you connect physically, but it's more of an arrangement. Now it depends. Like in my case, it was more friends with benefits, but it was more just intimacy. We didn't like go to the show or go to the movies or go out to dinner. We didn't do anything like that. I didn't want to do anything like that. So it depends on what you want. If you want a friend that you sleep with, but you also socialize with,
Mm.
that's different. So you have to decide what it is you want. And I think I don't know, I think that muddies the water. I just think that makes it difficult, because what if you're out with him when you meet somebody who you'd like to meet romantically? And even if you two have agreed that you're just friends with benefits, it's human nature. If you're out to dinner or you go out as a group, maybe with your friends, and you're at a bar, and then this man walks in that you'd like to talk to romantically, but you have your friends with benefits guy there, he's going to be jealous. Even though you're not connected romantically, you're still connected intimately. So I think that makes the situation difficult. So personally, I would not do that. It just makes it too difficult and too uncomfortable. But again, though, everybody, again, there's no right way or wrong way to do that. The right way is the way that works for you. So in my opinion, I would keep it to one person. I would say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody I can at least, connect with once or twice a week, not on Saturday night, probably, if that's what, that would be date night. But I mean, it has to be somebody that you can be honest enough with to have that conversation. Now, if you find that you like him and you start to develop feelings for him, as long as it's mutual, it's great. But you have to understand that was not the original arrangement. So you could be running into a situation where you could get heartbroken again. And then you have to be prepared to stop. Everybody says, well, I don't want to ruin my friendship. I like him so much. I don't want to ruin the friendship. But if you feel horrible every time you're with him because you're feeling this conflict, how much fun are you having with this man anyway? I mean, and again, like you said earlier, it's easy to talk it. Sometimes it's hard to leave somebody that you like in that situation. You started out, it was just a physical connection, and he met your physical needs. And then now you're starting to like him, and you're starting to rely on him emotionally. And he's kind of, because emotional intimacy is very strong. It's a very strong pull. It's just as strong as physical intimacy. And so, if you're starting to feel a sense of emotional intimacy with this man and he's not, you're only going to get hurt, because you're going to start feeling more and more connected to him on an emotional level while he is out looking for love. And so he's going to come to you one day and say, hey, I met somebody. And you're going to be like, oh, then you're going to get heartbroken. So you have to go into it knowing that, you know. And again, if you have a conversation and he feels the same way, then you can start exploring, well, what would this look like now if we were actually a couple? And see if you can't create that own, you know, you can create your own scenario, because you're going to be different. Having, you know, just having a friend with benefits is going to be different than having a boyfriend. You know, a friend with benefits is not going to meet your family. I'm assuming. I would never introduce mine to my family anyway. So it's going to be different. And so you have to talk about that. And again, just like anything else, it's all about communication too. And having somebody that you feel safe enough with to have those conversations with.
And why would you choose friends with benefits situation versus just hooking up with someone? If given that you're physically attracted to the person in both cases, and that's why you're
Well,
seeking it in the first place.
I think hooking up with somebody, you know, well, gosh, it's just it's so dangerous from a physical standpoint. Just with, you know, sexually transmitted diseases and all that stuff. So it's difficult. It's scary on those. And, you know, and unwanted pregnancies and all that stuff. So for anybody listening, condoms are queen. So condoms are king and queen. Don't do this without wearing a condom. Because again, everybody is different. I mean, a lot of it depends on, you just want the sex. If you just want the sex, go hook up. I mean, it's not hard to find somebody to sleep with as a woman. I mean, you know, I mean, you could bring somebody home any day of the week if you wanted to, really. Um, if they're nice and there was physical chemistry, maybe they could become your friends with benefits person. If you found out, maybe you found out after you hooked up one night and you're talking and you find out this man is a confirmed bachelor. He's never ever going to get married. He has no interest in marriage, right? But he's great in bed. So maybe he could be your friend. You know, you like him. He's nice. He's good in bed. You match physically, so he could turn into your friend with benefits. You know, you also have to have a man who's willing to be monogamous with you. Hooking up, it's whatever. You know, this person could have hooked up with somebody yesterday, right? He's hooking up with me today. He could have hooked up with somebody else yesterday. He might hook up with somebody else tomorrow. That's different. But if you're in a friends with benefits situation, personally, I would only want to think that he was sleeping with me. And again, it's because of the physical aspect of I don't want to get sick. You know, it has nothing to do with the moral issue. It's I don't want to get sick. I don't want to have blisters where I don't want to have blisters. So you just want to be really careful. I mean, and you do have to be careful. I mean, you have to be careful. If you're out there and you just are really looking for that physical release, I would be very careful how you do that. Like, I wouldn't necessarily bring somebody back to your home. I would just you have to be really careful as a woman, you know, I mean, because they could be crazy or whatever, you know, that's not my hooking up is, I mean, and I can't say that I'm not going to say I've never done it, and I'm not going to say that it's not done. It's just not always the smartest thing to do. And so you have to be super smart about how the logistics.
And how do you handle personal questions such as your relationship history, whether you have kids or not? Should you divulge this information right off the bat, regardless of whether you're seeking a fling or a long-term relationship?
You know, it's really interesting I think if you have children, you want to say yes, right? Because I would say right off the bat, you would tell them you have children. Because if they don't like kids or don't want kids, why would you go on a second date with them? Right? The purpose of your first date, Venus, is to determine if there's enough there to go on date number 2. That's the only objective of date number 1. And the objective of date number 2 is there enough there to go on date number 3? So yes, if you want to talk about your kids, I think absolutely, because I mean they're coming with you. As far as your past relationships, I don't talk about that stuff. I never talk about my ex. I mean, not until, I mean, I will maybe say, well, and I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have a good relationship with my ex-husband. And I'll say, you know, I was married X amount of years, I've been divorced X amount of years, and I'm fortunate that this is the children I have, and I'm fortunate that we're good friends now. And that's all I say. That's all I say. And because if you're with a man, or if a man is with you, and you cannot stop talking about your ex, you're not over him. You're not over the ex, or you're not over the divorce. If that's all you think about and that's all you talk about, you're not ready to be dating, you know? And so, and I just tell them, I'm like, oh, you know what? Boring. That's a boring story. We'll save that for another day. And and move on. You know, I'd rather talk about the future. I mean, and then if he doesn't get it, you know, sometimes men, again, they get nervous. And so they just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk because they're nervous, and they don't even ask you any questions. They're just kind of giving you their resume. And if all they're talking about is their ex, well, then they're not ready to date either. You know, and then you just need to say, hey, I just don't think you're ready. You know, I really like, and if you might really like him, but that's when you really that's when you have to know yourself, Venus. It's like, if you're going to be like, do I want to battle? You have to ask yourself, this man is not over his ex. Either he's still in love with her, or he is still just emotionally attached to the relationship. So you have to ask yourself, am I willing to battle through that in the hopes that he'll open himself up to me and we can form a good relationship? But you're already starting way behind because he's not ready to even date yet. And then you can catch feelings because he's a nice guy and you want to help him, but you're not his counselor, and you're not his mother, and you're not his attorney, and you're not his accountant. He's a grown man. He can figure it out on his own. But you're catching feelings now when he decides finally after 6 months and that you've fallen in love with the guy, and then he decides he's not ready to date. When you knew that, intellectually, you knew that the first time you met him, because all he talked about was his wife, his ex-wife. So, you know, sometimes you just have to a lot of this is common sense, where but you have to be willing to follow your intuition, and you have to be willing to know, and you have to build your confidence from your core confidence on the inside, knowing that this man that you're sitting across from is not the only man that will ever ask you out. And there is another man out there who is better for you, because this man is not him. I mean, and so you have to be willing to say, no, I'm moving on. You know, women traditionally do too much. We really do. And when men start to pull back, rather than pick up the signs, this is again another one of the mistakes. When a man starts to pull back, we double down and start doing more for them, which makes them feel even more crowded. You know, a nice thing to say, if you're dating somebody like that, you can always say to them, you know what? I just don't think you're really ready to date right now. So why don't you and I go our separate ways, give yourself some time to heal. And then when you're ready again, if I'm available, we can try this again. I mean, it's sweet, it's kind, it's nice. He left feeling good, you leave feeling good. It's a win-win. And you learned from it. You learned from it. You have to be willing to say no. or you have to be willing to say, I'm going to move on, because there's always going to be there's always going to be a different man out there. As long as you're looking for them, you have to look for them. You have to expect to find them. Your brain will find what you expect it to find. So if you expect to find really nice men, you're going to attract really nice men. I want to say one thing, because I know we're running down on time and I want to get this out. If you find yourself attracting men who are just really they're just icky. They're not nice. They're not thoughtful. They're not caring. They don't treat you well. You're only going to attract a man who is at the same vibrational level as you are. So if you're attracting men who are just not good people, it's a struggle, blah, 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 blah. That's a sign that you need to do some inner work and you need to build your confidence. Because the higher your confidence and the better you feel about yourself, the higher your energy vibration. And then you're going to start attracting higher quality men. And when I say high quality men, I'm not talking about men that are rich. I mean, that's fine if they are, but I'm talking about men who know how to treat a woman. But you really want to keep an eye on that, because if you keep attracting men that just don't know how to treat you and they're just not good people, then there's work that that has to be done inside. And that's important to know, because it's a good indicator of where you are. It's unfortunate that in your 30s you feel like you're an older dater, because in reality you're just getting started. I mean, you really are just getting started. I mean, I don't think women come into their own until they're in their 40s.
Wow.
I mean, I really do. I mean, I always told people, I thought we should be able to retire until we're 40 and then go to work. Because how do you even know what you want to do? How do
You're
you know
actually
what
right.
your interests, how do you know what your interests are?
Sure.
It's like you need time to grow and develop and change. So I don't want you to feel, and I don't want any of your viewers to feel that you're you're just too old to date or find love, because you're not. And it's all about mindset. It really is. If you believe that you're sexy, believe that you're smart, believe that you have a lot of to offer the world, and it'll just shift. And if nothing else, just write it out. Write out affirmations. I am whatever you want to be. I'm smart. I'm sexy. I'm attracting great men. I mean, and just talk it through. If nothing else, talk it through.